What items should you be bringing on a hunt? That's a question I got in my Discord, so I figured I'd make a video going over what items you should be using if you're new to Monster Hunter with Wilds, since there are a lot to use and it's easy to get overwhelmed. I decided to focus on what I consider to be the essentials for newer hunters. This isn't a comprehensive guide for every item to consider in the endgame, so keep that in mind as we go along. I also plan on making a separate video about how to manage and use items effectively, including customizing your item loadouts and radio wheel menu, so subscribe if you want to see that when it goes live. I will, however, at the end show an example loadout that a lot of people might find helpful, just to get you started. Also, for convenience, every item is going to be timestamped, so feel free to click around if you want to learn something specific, or just watch through the whole thing, whatever you prefer. I'm going to walk through all of the items using the crafting menu since it categorizes everything pretty nicely, and it's an easy way to see all of the recipes as well. Just keep in mind that not every item that you'll use in your loadout is actually going to show up here. I'll mention any of those items that you might need as we build our loadout later. First up is going to be our basic potion. You probably already know what this does, it just restores your health. While it doesn't restore a ton of health, it's still pretty useful to have these because you might not always need a bigger potion to top off your HP. And it also serves as a core ingredient, so you'll always want these on you. And you can craft these using the basic herbs that you can find pretty much anywhere. This is one of the few items set to auto-craft by default, and I think you should keep it that way. I can't really think of a reason when you'd want to have an herb by itself, so you might as well use them to replenish your potions on the fly as you need more. Next up we have the Mega Potions. It's exactly the same as a regular potion, just with more healing. For most of your time playing Monster Hunter, this will probably be the main way that you heal in fights. And like regular potions, you can hold 10 of them at once. You can craft these using potions and honey, so be sure to collect honey whenever you see it. And just like potions, this is another item that I would recommend keeping on autocraft. I'll show you a quick comparison video so you can see how much more healing a Mega Potion does compared to a regular potion. It'll give you an idea of when to use each one. Keep in mind that when you're using a potion, it heals a short burst at the start and then heals the rest over a longer period of time. Your character actually has to finish the drinking animation to get the entire healing amount, so be careful not to cancel this too early unless you know that you'll be safe. And now we get to the First Aid Med Plus. Both this and the regular First Aid Med are only available during a hunt. To get regular First Aid Meds, which you need to craft the Plus version, you have to open up your Sacred's item pouch. This should be left on the D-pad for controller players and N if you're on keyboard. The game will basically give you a couple of these each hunt just to help you out. So it can be handy to leave this on autocraft so that if you grab some honey, you'll get the Plus version automatically. And next we have the ever important Antidote. You probably already know this, but it removes poison, which can be pretty important because poison can kill you really fast. Just be careful with this one because you actually have to finish the entire drink animation for the poison to be removed, which leads into why I like its much better cousin, the Herbal Medicine. Herbal Medicine is your first pill type consumable. Anytime you see an icon in this shape, it means that the consumption is basically instant for the item, since your character just has to bite down. Herbal Medicine not only removes poison instantly, but also heals you slightly too. So while it is a slightly more involved craft, I favor it over antidotes almost every single time. These next two, Deodorant and Cleanser, are worth knowing about even though they have very niche use cases. Deodorant is for removing blast blight and stench, both of which are really rare in the game right now. And for blast blight specifically, you can also just roll it off, while Cleanser is used to remove frost and webbing. Both of these are also going to be pretty rare situations. However, the frost in particular could save your life. So once you know that you're dealing with the situation where the frost is a factor, you might want to bring this. And now we get to one of the most important items in the game, the Max Potion. If you remember from earlier, this also has the pill icon, which means that it's an instant consumable. This one not only fully heals you, but also maximizes your health bar. So it can be useful in moments where your food wore off for some reason or you forgot to eat. But the main value is definitely to just heal you in a situation where you don't have time to drink a full potion. And following that up is the Ancient Potion. It's just like the Max Potion, except it also raises your stamina to the cap. My advice is to use this in a pinch, especially if you're out of max potions, but never use it just to raise your stamina. There are better options for that. And I mainly say that because ancient potions are pretty hard to farm for because they use nourishing extracts. So it's important to be mindful of which items you're using, especially when they're not easy to farm. Next up is Lifepowder, one of the most important items in multiplayer. Both it and its stronger version, Dust of Life, allow you to heal everyone in the area. In my opinion, everyone playing in multiplayer should have both of these on them. It can be the difference between a clear and everyone carding. You can't carry too many of these, so be mindful of that as you use them. Something important to keep in mind is that the range is way bigger than the animation of the powder itself. The powder is like a small cloud around you, but it really hits people that are all the way across the arena. So don't be afraid to hit the button even if someone isn't right next to you. Like the last two, Herbal Powder is just herbal medicine but for everyone around you. Great for situations with AoE poison attacks. Energy drink isn't a really big deal item, but it can help you if you're put to sleep. Chances are something or someone will hit you before that actually happens though. When you're in a really hot environment, your hunter will actually start to take damage, and that's where the cool drink comes in. It gives you a long-lasting buff that'll prevent you from dealing with that. And likewise for the hot drink, when you're in a really cold environment, it'll prevent your stamina cap from being drained. These are both items that you'd only ever bring when you're in those environments. But just keep in mind that both of these environments typically have plenty of endemic life that can help you with this as well. For example, when you're in the Ice Shard Cliffs, right outside the base camp is both a heat mantle bug and a hot pepper plant, which means that you rarely if ever have to actually bring these on your own. It's just really easy to get this on the go. And now we get to Dash Juice. This one's another buffing consumable, and it reduces your stamina consumption when performing actions. So it's great for weapons that use a lot of stamina like the dual blades or the bow. This is another one that can be pretty hard to farm for, since you can't just get dash extract from plants out in the wild. So be careful with using this one too freely. And now we get to the offense and defense buff items. Both offense and defense have 4 of the items. You can see here that we have Demon Drug, Mega Demon Drug, Demon Powder, and Might Pill. All of these items increase your raw damage stat, which means that all of your attacks will do more damage. There are a couple things to understand here. Demon Drug turns into Mega Demon Drug, so there's pretty much never reason to use the base version since Mega Demon Drug is just stronger. And more importantly, Mega Demon Drug does not stack with Demon Drug. However, it does stack with both Demon Powder and Might Pills. Mega Demon Drug will last for 30 minutes. Demon Powder lasts for 3 minutes but works for your entire party. And then lastly there's Might Pill. This one gives you the strongest buff of all of them, but it only lasts for 20 seconds. You'll often see speedrunners using all of these 3 things before a hunt starts. Using all of these together can give you a pretty big damage buff. However, for most players, I don't think that it's really necessary. Outside of a speedrun scenario, you just really have to think about if doing a little more damage is important or not. It might not matter if you shave off 30 seconds to a minute off your hunt just because you use these. While Mega Demon Drug seems like it's the most reasonable one to use because it lasts for half an hour, the ingredient you need to make it, Nourishing Extract, is not easy to farm. So in my opinion, this item is important to save for harder moments, where that extra damage can make a big deal. And as for all of the armor counterparts, these work exactly the same way. I'd say for beginners, Mega Armor Skin can be pretty useful to help you out in hunts, since it can help you to take a little less damage. While it's not a lot of defense, it matters way more when your defense values are already little, especially in early low rank. So consider using Mega Armor Skin when you're struggling. These last 2 consumables don't show up in the crafting menu, but they're really important to know about. And that's both the Ration and the Well Done Steak. The Ration is what you can use to increase your stamina cap. When you're out hunting, every 15 minutes or so, your stamina cap will decrease naturally, so you want to keep these around to restore it as the hunt goes on. Each base camp will have an NPC that gives you rations after every hunt, so don't forget to grab yours. As for the Well Done Steak, this is like the Ration but way better. It caps out both your stamina and your HP bar. However, it does take a while to eat. To get these, you want to get raw meat by killing random endemic life out in the field, and then using your barbecue grill to actually cook the meat. There is a small minigame where you have to press the confirmation button at the right time, but it's not too hard. If you do it right, you'll get some well done steak. And that's it for all of the consumable section. Now, let's talk about some of the tools that you can bring on a hunt. First, we have the Farcaster. This one can be pretty handy to get you out of a really bad situation. The moment you use it, you'll be lifted away by a wing drake to the nearest camp, and it works in the middle of combat. While you can just use your map, it might be convenient to have this on a radial menu, since you might not have the time to actually open your map to fly away. Not only is this good for saving your life, it's also useful for restocking on items when you start to run low. Next, we have the barrel bombs. These are items that you can place or roll on the ground. When they blow up either by hitting something or taking damage, they'll do a ton of damage in the area. These are most commonly used when waking up a monster. The idea is that you place them around a sleeping monster's head. All you have to do is line up an attack with both the barrels and the monster and you get a nice chunk of damage. I always like bringing these along with me, especially because it's fun to see everyone putting them down. And it's free guaranteed damage, so why not? You probably only want to use the Mega Barrel Bomb since the others don't do nearly as much damage. The next item that you should know about is the Flash Pod. This has a variety of uses. The main one being that it can blind and interrupt monsters. When you use this, you'll often stop them from doing whatever attack that they were trying to do. And because they're blind, they'll just throw out attacks randomly because they can't really aim for you. Not only can this save someone's life, but depending on what the monster's doing, it can give you a nice damage window. For example, when you flash during certain attacks, it'll actually not only cancel the attack, but also cause the monster to topple over. Such as when you'd use it during Utduna's belly flop in the air. It's also great for flying monsters because if you use a flash pod while they're flying, they'll fall to the ground and you'll also get a free damage window. Just be careful not to spam this too much, because monsters will become more resistant to it over time, and certain monsters may not be affected by it at all. Dung Pods and large Dung Pods are used to get a monster to run away. This is useful when you're fighting one monster and another appears to cause trouble. Large Dung Pods cause a huge AoE, and they're mainly used for the rare pack situations. I always bring Dung Pods with me, just to prevent any annoying situations. Luring Pods are also nice to have. Their main use will be when a monster tries to run away as you're fighting it. You can fire one of these to get it to turn around and come back, which can be nice so that you don't have to go and chase it down somewhere across the map. And last, we get to the items that you'd use to capture a monster. First, we have the traps, the Pitfall trap and the shock trap. You can carry one of each. How they work is that you put them in the ground, they take a few seconds to deploy, and then when a monster steps near them, they get trapped. Not only can you use this for capturing, but they're also just good for damage windows, because it gives you a few seconds to hit the monster without it being able to do anything in return. But let's say that you actually want to capture a monster. That's where the trank bombs come in. How capturing works is when the monster gets below 25 HP, you're able to trap it and use trank bombs to capture it. All you have to do is toss 2 trank bombs and let it fall in a trap, and you can do this in any order that you want. The big thing here is that Monster Hunter doesn't have any health bars, so how are you supposed to know when it's below 25%? Well, if you check the minimap whenever you're fighting a monster, there are actually icons showing its status. When you see this skull icon flashing over it, it's below 20% HP. So yeah, there's a window where you can capture before the skull appears, but it's hard to know unless you really know the fight well. So I usually just wait until I see the icon to try and capture if that's what I want to do. And now that we've gone through all the items, I'll show you that example loadout that I mentioned at the start, so you can see what I like to use in most situations. So here's an example loadout. I turn off most of the tools, and you can do this by pressing ARX in the controller or clicking on the item with your mouse. And the reason for that is that I just don't use most of these in combat, so a lot of it's just clutter on my item bar. Next up I have both potions, Mega Potion and Regular Potion, Max Potions, and the Ancient Potion. For stamina I have the Ration and the Well Done Steak. For status I bring Herbal Medicines because I don't like using Antidote unless there's a lot of poison in the fight, because the Antidote is just really slow. Nullberry is good for any blights. Mega Armor Skin isn't really a big deal later on, but if you're starting out or early in the game, it can be a pretty big defensive power increase, so I think it's worth bringing. Trank Bombs are used with both of the traps that I have in the loadout to capture monsters, Farcaster to get you out of a bad situation, and then I like bringing Mega Barrel Bombs just because it's nice to have the free damage if the monster goes to sleep. And then here are both of the traps, Pitfall and Shock Trap, and lastly we have the Flash Pods and the Dung Pods, because they're pretty useful. And that's everything. I made this as a general loadout that you can bring into pretty much any situation that you want. And obviously you can tweak things to your liking, and even consider turning on some of those tools if you're out exploring. Although I'd recommend considering the radial menu for that, which I'll get into in another video. Anyway, if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. And I hope to make more videos that help people out like this one. If there are any topics that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments. And with all that said, don't forget to subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video.